What is going on, everybody? We are here today at Blockchain RI. My name's Kevin and I'm here with Jenna. We're talking about the Blockchain Research Institute, founded in March 2017, the largest and most prominent blockchain research institute in the world. Tell me a little bit about Blockchain RI and what you guys do.
Sure, thanks. So the Blockchain RI is doing the definitive investigation of blockchain strategies, opportunities, and implementation challenges over the next year. So we exist to help companies compete, to help governments understand the implications of this technology, and to help startups really capitalize on these opportunities so that we can really build a better world.
So you talk about companies that you're doing research with. What are these companies? Can you give some examples of who they are and where they're coming from and how they're using your research?
Sure. So we're blessed to have a large smorgasbord of companies working with us. We're working with large technology companies like IBM and Accenture and Microsoft and SAP, who are really at the forefront of blockchain innovation. And then we're working with lots of large corporations who are leaders in their own right, but are just trying to really figure out the implications of blockchain for their business. These are companies such as PepsiCo, FedEx, Loblaws, and others who are historic leaders of their industry, but are really just trying to figure out what blockchain is all about. And then we're also working with the whole suite of government in Canada. So we're working with the Government of Canada, the Province of Ontario, the City of Toronto, the Toronto Stock Exchange, and the UHN, which controls a lot of the research dollars in Ontario. And alongside that, we're working with several different startups in Toronto and beyond, who we believe are really creating the next phase of blockchain infrastructure. They're the leaders of this new paradigm, and we believe that being able to connect this multi-stakeholder group of people together, that we can really enact real change.
Very cool. So you guys are all over the place. You got public, private, small, large, everyone. How are these companies applying the research that you're doing? Do you have any examples of that, like concrete examples of where this research is being applied in the real world?
Sure. So as far as implementation of our research, our first projects were just available to members as of the end of September. So all of our projects have a 6-month essentially incubation period where companies have the opportunity to distill the research within their companies. We have lots of member services executives on our team that their job is to ensure that companies are really reading the research, that they're understanding the insights that our amazing researchers are putting out, and that they have the opportunity to then connect directly with the people in each of our member organizations who are looking to implement this research. So as far as implementations go, again, IBM, Accenture, SAP, and Microsoft, among others, have announced lots of different blockchain offerings within their suite of services. So we believe in supporting companies that are doing this work and sort of leading them down their blockchain journey.
Gotcha.
Lots of companies are doing POCs and pilots and have different pieces of our research that are being used to implement new strategies, but we believe in having all of the information, or having as much of the information as we can, before recommending that a company moves into a proof of concept or moves into building a platform. The companies that were leaders in blockchain previously, before they joined our program, really use our program as an addition onto what they're already trying to accomplish.
I see. So each company then kind of gets this head start, this like 6-month head start, correct, on using this research for themselves, and then it gets released to the public. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, so at the Blockchain Research Institute, we believe that a rising tide lifts all boats. So all our research is available to our members, and then 6 months after each project is published, it becomes Creative Commons. So it's available to anyone to read, to republish, to repurpose, which is what some of our members are interested in doing after the research goes public. So our first research should be going public about mid-April.
Very cool. And so now 2017 was a huge year for blockchain, digital currency. When can we start to expect to see mainstream adoption? I see like there's proof of concepts out and there's people who are testing blockchain and testing digital currencies. When do you think we can start to see real mainstream adoption for end users of blockchain technology?
I think if done smartly, we could see real mainstream adoption either by the end of 2018 or about mid-2019. It depends on what kind of platforms you're thinking about or looking at. If you're looking at platform ecosystems like Ethereum, like Hyperledger, like the work that the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance is doing, those platforms are already in use. Those platforms are being distributed. If you look at the XRP ledger, Ripple is already using the XRP ledger to move funds between banks. So I think at the platform level, we're doing quite well on implementation. I think moving into the application layer, that will be probably in the next 2 years or so, under 2 years. We'll see a lot more emergence of consumer-facing applications. So we've seen a lot of back-end applications of blockchain, but I think in the next 18 months or so, we will see a lot more revenue-generating dApps. Because right now there are a lot of pilots of interesting projects, interesting decentralized applications, but those probably will not move large scale for a little while.
Okay, and so just to clarify for our viewers, the platform level that you spoke about, that's more like the infrastructure of blockchain that's being built out right now, and then you have applications which are like the end user stuff on top?
Yeah, so we find that platform ecosystems like Hyperledger, like the XRP ledger, like Ethereum, obviously, and the Bitcoin blockchain, that these are platforms that need to be established and tested before you can actually build a credible application on top. It's like when you're building a house, you need the foundation to be a solid rock before you can build anything on top of it that will actually have any longevity. So there are lots of pilots of applications, but what a lot of these applications are running into is they're running into roadblocks where the platform is not developed enough for them to be able to put in updates or for them to be able to improve capability of specific apps.
Gotcha.
So there are lots of apps that are before their time, that are interesting, but then if the underlying platform changes, then that app suddenly has to reshift their whole practice.
I see. And so as we start to see these applications come to fruition, what kind of industries do you see as the first industries to be affected by this on a mainstream level?
Through our research, we're finding that there will be a lot of applications for supply chain, a lot of applications for the provenance of food and goods. IBM is running a really interesting pilot with Walmart about the provenance of pork from China all the way to wherever it ends up on someone's plate. And so I think that's a really interesting application, one that could be scaled easily within the supply chain that is created there. So someone such as IBM is perfectly placed to implement something like that on a large scale with the partnership of companies like Walmart, like Loblaws, like big companies that are looking to revitalize something that hasn't really been revitalized in previous eras of the internet. So in the first generation of the internet, we took a lot of processes that already existed and we put them online and called them digital.
Right.
But what blockchain does is it really fundamentally looks at those processes and says, well, why did we take that process, put it online without fixing the underlying infrastructure? That's why the financial services system, some companies are running on 1970s mainframes still, right. Or they are, lots of things in financial services are running on scanned PDFs, and a scanned PDF is not a digital version of a document. And you can't do anything with attestation, you can't do anything with cybersecurity because you don't know if these documents are legit. You don't know if these documents have been signed properly or are using some sort of digital signing system to ensure their accuracy.
So with the BRI, is your goal then to kind of take this research and help companies solve existing problems that they already have?
No, I think our main goal is to really understand the implications of this technology on fundamental business models that companies have now. So for us, we really try to look closely at a company and say, well, yes, you may be having this problem right now, but if blockchain technology really is as transformative, or even 50% or 10% as transformative as we think it will be, will you still have the problems that you're having right now 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road? And we think that when you're really messing with these baked in protocols, when you're messing with the fundamentals of a company and where their money comes from and how they organize capability within their company, I think when you have to have a long view. You have to say, well, okay, well, I might be having this problem now, but if I'm not having this problem 5 years down the road, what kind of problems can I anticipate? Or can I prepare myself for this next phase of disruption? So it's really change management. It's understanding how companies are going to change and then preparing them for a disruption that we don't understand.
And so when you look at these problems and you're trying to solve, figure out how companies are going to solve problems in the future, what are the projects right now that you're most interested in, the most exciting ones to you in this space?
I think for me, a lot of the Blockchain Research Institute's work focuses on under-researched segments. It focuses on areas such as mobility and telecommunications. It focuses on healthcare and health records. It focuses on the distribution of government services, things that are totally important to an economy, that are fundamental to an economy, but that there isn't a immediate kickback, like that there isn't an immediate opportunity to make lots of money.
Because and you don't think of those as spots for blockchain.
No, exactly. But something like mobility, making sure that my phone works when I land in Dubai or when I land in London, those are fundamental things that I need to make sure that if a blockchain world is going to be the world that we're living in 5 years, will these fundamentals be in place so that it'll actually create a better world for humans? A popular saying that we have is that if implemented correctly, most citizens and most consumers won't know that they're using a blockchain-based system. And I think people get really caught up in, the ICO craze and in all these new mining operations and quick ways to make absurd amounts of money. And I think that that's really a big distraction. It's helpful in that it brings attention to the ecosystem. I have friends from all different walks of life messaging me as to how do I get into Ether, or how do I buy Bitcoins, and that awareness piece is really important for our work because it gives visibility, but it also creates a fragmentation of public discourse. The only way that Bitcoin or Ethereum or other interesting projects have historically ended up in the news is because there's been a problem. There's been a hack. There's been, someone lost lots of money, or there's, the Tezos legal battle, or all of these different subjects are the only pieces of information that the public is receiving. And so I think in this era of understanding facts and understanding how do we move forward in a world that is fragmented, I think it's really important for organizations like ours to really clarify that public discourse. We pride ourselves on being nonpartisan, on understanding our company's problems, being blockchain agnostic, weighing the pros and cons of each, and really coming at it with a really pragmatic view.
Sure.
As to how companies and governments and organizations can really capitalize on this, but also how we can work together to create a better world for citizens.
Yeah. And you talk about the awareness piece and how, like in 2017, we saw this massive jump in awareness, and a few companies. I mean, we saw like Kodak Coin and Long Island iced tea go into blockchain iced tea. It's insane how many companies are getting involved in blockchain. What are your thoughts on companies getting into this blockchain space? Do you have any advice to companies who are trying to get into this space or think they need to be in this space?
I think fundamentally the transformation will come from historical technology providers. It will come from people who are understanding that their business model is going to change and then figuring out a way. This is why we've seen, IBM, Accenture, Microsoft, SAP, we've seen them capitalize on the ability for more consulting, the ability to provide blockchain-based products, the ability to provide education. But I think realistically, Don Tapscott, our founder, said in Paradigm Shift that leadership can come from anywhere. And more than anything, blockchain is a democratizing technology. So if implemented correctly, it actually gives people the equal opportunity to contribute to society. It allows people to contribute towards a shared future with a financial incentive, which is something we've never had before. So I think the possibilities for things like the unbanked, for global prosperity, for the tracking of financial aid, or the tracking of charity donations to causes and that kind of thing are really interesting implications for me.
All right, well, thank you for your time. We're looking forward to seeing these research reports coming out in the next couple of months. It's going to be an exciting 2018 for blockchain technology. And thank you for coming in.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here.